find yourself craving more paranormal mysteries throughout the week? If so, Midweek Mysteries is a new segment of the Paranormal Mysteries Podcast that we created in order to give you a little extra content in the middle of your week. While not a full-length episode, Midweek Mysteries is more of a curated selection of 1 or 2 short stories that we think you'll enjoy. Think of it as just a small taste of what you'll get in Sunday's episode. It's just our way of saying thank you for being a listener. With that said, let's start the show. Welcome to Midweek Mysteries, and thank you for being here. I'm your host, Nick Ryan. I'd like to start out the show by saying a huge thank you to our wonderful patrons. Your support and generosity is truly amazing, and it makes our podcast possible. As always, we enjoy giving a personal shout-out to all of our supporters at the beginning of our full-length episodes every Sunday. So if you're a patron, be sure to tune in. Today's Midweek Mystery comes to us from Annalise. Annalise's story is called Haunted Dog Sitting Job. Annalise says, "Hello. I have a story that absolutely terrified me about 5 years ago. Hopefully you'll find it good enough to share and enjoy my terrifying experience dog sitting. When I was a sophomore in high school, I was looking for ways to make some money during the summer. I wrote an ad for dog sitting on the app Nextdoor, which everyone in my neighborhood could see. I was surprised when I got a quick response from a lady who lived just around the block from me. She asked if I was free to meet her and her dog Bella that weekend, and if I could dog sit the following week. I agreed and was excited to have gotten a job so quickly. That weekend I walked up to the house, and a wave of unexplainable fear came over me as I rang the doorbell. This was unusual, but I chalked it up to being nervous and tried to just brush it off. The owner was very nice, and I instantly fell in love with Bella, who was a pit bull black lab mix. Everything seemed fine, and the job seemed easy. Plus, I would get a break from my family for a week. However, for some reason, I couldn't shake the weird feeling of dread the whole time I was in the house. As soon as I left the house, the feeling immediately went away. I chose to ignore the feeling, which was a mistake. When the day came to dog sit for the first time, I unlocked the door and walked into the house. Bella was very excited to see me, and I normally would have been excited to see such a cute dog, but I couldn't shake the nervous feeling that I kept feeling. Almost like someone was watching me, or I wasn't alone. I kept trying to ignore it, and decided to watch some TV. While watching a show, I kept hearing tapping noises behind me, but I couldn't figure out if it was coming from the TV or from the house. I paused the show to see if I could figure it out, and waited for a minute or 2. Then I heard it again, 3 taps on the wall, just behind me. It was coming from a wall that was on the side of the house. I went to go look outside to see if maybe a tree branch was causing the tapping, or possibly a person was messing with me. However, there was no tree, and even crazier, the whole side of the house was filled with stacked unwanted junk that made it impossible for any normal-sized person to reach the wall. So there was no way someone could have been messing with me. This is when I came to the terrifying realization that the noise was coming from inside. I watch a lot of paranormal shows, so my mind immediately thought that this was paranormal. I knew that you can't show spirits fear, or else they'll get more powerful, so I did my best to act like I didn't even notice it. Plus, this seemed like such a small thing that I thought I was probably overthinking it. Sadly, that quickly changed. That evening, I took the dog for a walk, and when I came back, I saw something that made my jaw drop. There were puddles of water all over the living room floor, almost as if someone got out of a pool and walked around the house soaking wet. This terrified me. I wanted to leave right then and there, but I couldn't leave the dog alone for a week, and this was only the first day. I decided to suck it up, and after cleaning up the water, I pretended nothing had happened. That night I found it really hard to fall asleep and kept feeling like I was being watched. Bella slept with me, and she would get this intense look in her eyes, like she saw something in the room. Her eyes would move as if to follow something moving around, and would even growl at times. This scared me beyond belief. All I wanted to do was fall asleep, so I wouldn't have to be scared anymore. I finally drifted off, but was started awake when Bella jumped off the bed and started aggressively barking at the bedroom door. I was so scared I wanted to cry, but I got up and opened the door. Bella bolted into the hallway, and I ran after her. She ran to the stairs, and what I saw next made me want to run out of the house crying and screaming. I saw a very large shadow figure running up the stairs. I could even hear the footsteps. My whole body was rushed with the same feeling of dread that I felt the first time at the house. I first thought that someone was in the house, so I ran to the kitchen and grabbed a knife. I turned on as many lights as I could, and I started crying and screaming for the person to get out of the house. There was no response, no movement, nothing. I didn't know what to think, but Bella was still growling at the stairs, and I didn't know what to do. I stayed up the rest of the night and watched TV with the knife next to me. The rest of the week I had my boyfriend stay with me, and I tried my best not to be alone in the house. There were many more things that happened, but I can't fit all of them into this. I was so confused as to why the woman wouldn't mention to me that the house was this active. But then again, she probably wouldn't have gotten a dog sitter if she did. I didn't mention anything to her at the end of the week, because I was scared that she'd think I was crazy. I never dog sat for her again, even though she asked me multiple times. I later found out that her husband had passed away and had been a very aggressive alcoholic before he died from drinking-related issues. I always wondered if the lady was aware that her house was haunted, because when I talked to her, she would act perfectly normal, as if she had nothing to be scared of. Maybe her husband didn't like having a random girl staying in the house, and he was trying to scare me. I have no idea. Sorry for such a long story. Thank you for reading or sharing it, if you do. Stay spooky. Annalise. I contacted Annalise to inquire about the other experiences she had in the house, and if she'd be willing to share them. She had this to say. I continued to hear tapping on the walls and feeling watched throughout the whole week. I would hear footsteps upstairs where the owner's bedroom was, and sometimes Bella would run up there, and I would hear her chasing something around. Bella would usually wake up around 3 in the morning and either bark or growl, and it would scare the living crap out of me. I never saw the shadow person again, thank God, but I could hear it, and Bella knew it was there. Any friends I invited over to keep me company instantly would feel uneasy, and I'd have to beg them to stay with me. One incident is a little funny now looking back. One of my friends came over for the first time, and she was walking up the driveway. The front gate opened by itself. This was most likely the wind, but it happened at the perfect time to make it spooky. She made a joke, saying, "Oh no, don't tell me this house is haunted," when ironically, it most definitely was. My boyfriend was a trooper. I could tell he was scared, and had experienced a lot of the same things that I did, since he slept there a lot of the nights that week. The last 2 scariest things that happened besides what happened that first day occurred during the last 2 days. It was the second to last day, and I was alone in the house when my boyfriend called me. He asked me who else was in the house with me. I told him no one was. At first, he didn't believe me, because he said he could hear voices in the background, so I must have friends over. I couldn't hear the voices at all, and he started to believe me when he could hear the fear in my voice. I usually would have blamed the TV for what he heard, but it wasn't on during this time, so I have no idea what he was hearing. That really freaked me out. The last day, the owner was coming home late, so I had to stop by around 8 p.m. to walk Bella one last time. I was alone, but I wish someone had heard what I did, so I wouldn't have gone through the cycle of questioning myself. Anyway, as I opened the door and took a first step inside, I heard, "Hello?" come from the back of the house, near where the garage was. This voice sounded identical to the voice of the owner, so my first thought was, oh, she must have gotten home early. I wasn't even scared at this point because I completely believed the voice was from the owner. But when I said, "Hey, it's just me, Annalise," and got no response, my heart dropped. I walked around the house and found no one. I hadn't heard any voices the whole week, so the fact that this sounded just like the owner made me go in circles contemplating if I heard what I did. I was so freaked out and happy that I could leave after that and never go back. Hope all is well. Sincerely, Annalise. As we come to the end of this edition of Midweek Mysteries, I'd like to say thank you to all of you for listening and supporting the podcast, and a special thank you to Annalise for writing in and sharing their experience with all of us. Until next time, I hope you all have a safe and healthy rest of the week, and we'll see you back here on Sunday for our next episode. If you believe that you or someone that you know has witnessed something unexplainable and you'd like to have your story shared on the podcast, you can contact me at paranormalmysteriespodcast@gmail.com or visit paranormalmysteriespodcast.com and click on the Tell Your Story link. All of our contact information, as well as the sources that were referenced for today's episode, can be found in the show notes. You can also get involved with the podcast by joining our forum and by following us on social media. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, you can find us at Paranormal Mysteries Podcast or on Twitter at ParaMysteryPod. And while you're there, please give us a follow. If you're wondering how you can support the podcast, you're supporting it right now just by listening, and we really appreciate it. You can also help by subscribing to the podcast and by sharing it with all of your friends. If you're looking for additional ways to show your support, you can visit patreon.com/Paranormal Mysteries and become a patron. Benefits include ad-free episodes and early access to select shows. New episodes of the Paranormal Mysteries Podcast are produced every Sunday, with a new Midweek Mysteries available every Wednesday, and they're available on all of your favorite podcast apps, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Stitcher. From all of us at the Paranormal Mysteries Podcast, thank you so much for listening, and please remember, don't wait for the unknown to come to you. Get out there and find it.